90 billion euro lost in VAT every year. This is the estimation regarding the problem of tax evasion every year. So what about the solution? How can we fight this monster? E-invoicing is a solution, together with new standard and the initiative of ViDA project. So stay with us, that we'll talk about it. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Hello Trust, the podcast of Tinexta Infocert regarding the world of technology, regulation, and digital trust. In today's episode, we will talk about e-invoicing and the new regulation that are arising around Europe about it. With us, there is Riccardo. Hi, Fabio. The subject matter expert for Tinexta Infocert regarding the e-invoicing topic and invoicing solution. So, Riccardo, right away. E-invoicing. What is e-invoicing and why it's different from sending a PDF via email? Please explain to me.
Well, that may seem a simple question. It's not that simple, actually. Let's say that the electronic invoice or e-invoice, it's, of course, we can start from the paper invoice, but let's suppose that we are already at the PDF invoice level.
Yeah, let's talk about from the PDF.
Yeah. The electronic invoice is like a structured way to draft and transmit the invoice.
Okay.
So it's both related to the invoice itself, how it's written, how it's composed, and how the invoice is transmitted from one subject to the other, basically.
So yeah, a matter of structure of data.
Yeah, it's about how data are organized. Okay. So we basically we passed from PDF invoice to typically XML now, or UBL. There are many different formats, but XML and UBL are the most common one, we can say.
Is there any standard out there about this structure of data?
Yes, it's technically speaking, it's the EN 16931. There is like a format, a standard format that was drafted by the European Union.
Okay.
The European Union is kind of the biggest ambassador of invoicing now on a global level, let's say. So there is kind of this format of invoice. The thing is that it's a format, it's like a template, we can say, and then each member state, each country can adapt it, can enrich it with other data, can remove other data that are present.
So there are standards, but not so strict. But in fact, my next question is, what's happening around Europe?
Well, that's a kind of multi-layered question.
Okay.
I will try to answer step by step. So why European Union? Why Europe in general? Because there is this project that is VAT in the digital age.
Okay.
That is ViDA. That's basically aimed at, that's sponsored by the European Commission, and that's aiming at let's say harmonizing the management of the VAT at European Union level.
Okay.
Why? Because in the European Union, but I would say worldwide, we have a huge issue of tax evasion.
Okay.
Or the so-called VAT gap. So basically the difference between the VAT the country should receive, and the VAT that is actually flowing into the country's treasury, exactly. So invoicing can be a huge driver of, let's say, transparency and fiscal efficiency.
Okay.
That is being proved as quite efficient in reducing.
Yeah, can imagine why. Everything abstract and so on.
Exactly. Consequentially, this kind of project, so ViDA, is basically driving the adoption of e-invoicing in all the member states.
Okay.
Or I mean, in a kind of a gradual way. Each member state at some point, the objective is around 2030 to have an e-invoicing framework. What happens though is that this aim, this goal is not telling you how to do it. Exactly. It's
Okay.
telling you do it, and then the ways, the hows can be
So
decided.
everyone is doing whatever they want. No, there should be a standard, at least something like a standard.
There are some some kind of standards that are being used. So the format of the invoice is a structured format. So the baseline,
Yeah.
let's say, of how the invoice should be written, it's, let's say, defined, but can be customized.
Okay.
There is also Peppol. There is basically it's let's say channel network to exchange invoices in an efficient way between parties. Peppol is basically Pan-European Public Procurement. It's the acronym. It's being used. It was used mainly by Nordics, and but now basically it's kind of more
Accepted as a
more
standard,
accepted,
more or less.
even outside Europe. Actually,
It's good news, actually.
yeah, it's good news because it allows for more, interoperability.
Yeah.
Between the.
But in fact, I'm asking you last question, but it's a layered question as well. Seeing and listening to you that there are standards like structured data and a standard for the channel of exchanging for information and the arising of new regulation. If I am a multi-country company, what should I do? Because it's not an easy task to implement a project at a multi-country level regarding the invoicing, and if and how the QTSPs as a role, digital trust as a role to harmonize these tasks and these problems and support these companies.
Well, yeah, that's a great question, actually. Let's say the multi-country companies, enterprises mostly, because they have more invoices now to manage and exchange. They kind of have, on one side, a problem as a result of all this thing that we talked about, and on the other side, they have an opportunity.
Okay.
Why a problem? Because there is let's say, a legislative legislative obligation to be compliant with. And since they are multi-country and
more than one, they are more than one problem regarding
more than one problem, because it's let's say harmonized but not completely.
No.
So it's not like you can do exactly the same thing in each single country where you operate.
A mess. You could synthesize it.
It's kind of a mess. It's kind of a mess because you have to be or find somebody that is expert of fiscal aspects, but it's also a matter of automation, about efficiency, about integrations with the systems, and so on and so forth. So I will come to the second part of your question regarding the potential role of QTSPs. Well, it's a huge one, potentially speaking, because we know compliance, no? We know the regulations, so it's kind of our thing. So we can for sure support companies. QTSPs can support companies in being compliant, period. But on top of that, we can add much more in terms of automation efficiency, in terms of, think about AI as well. When I talk about automation, when I talk about invoicing, digitalizing the invoice and inserting the invoice in a structured flow, digital, means that I can, let's say, let AI work on those data and do something that is value adding, no?
Yeah, another big added value, actually. Yeah,
exactly. But it's also because why QTSPs themselves, because there are some trust services that are strictly linked to the invoice.
For example?
Well, for example, we can mention signature, for example, e-signature, because it's not always mandatory by law, but it's highly suggested basically every time. Sometimes it's even mandatory to sign the invoice.
Okay, yeah.
Digitally, of course.
To enforce the validity, maybe for the document, I can imagine.
Exactly. To, let's say, strengthen the legal probative value of the document itself, because you think about all the possible frauds or modifications on the invoice. The second one is the archiving. e-archiving is becoming a qualified trust service shortly with IDAS 2. And I will say every time almost it's a mandatory element when we talk about invoicing. The invoice is being transmitted and then it has to be archived in a certain way.
To preserve in a right way
Exactly.
the important documents, I imagine.
Exactly. So basically, as QTSPs, we can offer the fiscal part, so the fiscal compliance part with the invoicing alone, and then we can add on top of it a structured process as to have a, let's say, a comprehensive suite of trust, automation, efficiency, and so on.
Okay, it's quite clear. Thank you very much, Riccardo, because it is not an easy topic. And thanks to all the people that is watching us by home. And I invite them to put a follow on our social, on our YouTube and LinkedIn. So thank you, and to the next episode of Hello Trust.